This is Betsy Palmer, and I'm not sorry that I lost my head. It's been worth every moment of it.
And right off the bat, we have the guest here. Usually we wait, we bring him on, we build suspense. He's right here tonight. We've got Victor Miller, who he wrote the original Friday the 13th. Welcome to Without Your Head.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And it's a little, well, I guess we would have the guest on about this time. We just, we're very late. 18 minutes late here.
Technical difficulties.
Yes. We'll blame it on Victor. We'll say we were just checking out JoshuaHoffine.com.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Which I put the link right in the chat room. If you're listening, not in the chat room, come on over to the chat room. And there's like excellent photography there. We were talking off air about it. And there's
Critter
actually
Under the Bed is my favorite so far.
There's actually one on there that Victor owns.
Yeah, I bought two of them. I've got the one with the monster under the stairs, which reminds me of my youth, and also the clown behind the hanging sheet.
Mm-hmm. As soon as I posted the link, actually in the chat room, one of the people in there, Loser Boy 2049, he brought up that one was his favorite before you even mentioned it.
Oh God, I love it. Yeah. No, he's Joshua's all about the same things I was in terms of finding, the nightmares you had as a child are the same things that I brought to Friday the 13th. I mean, when people said, how did you think of whatever you thought of, every one of those had been some sort of a nightmare or terror that I had at night, and I just plucked them out and used them.
Mm-hmm. I think actually John here had a question about the origins of Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
In what respect?
I've always heard that the story was inspired by the Cropsey tales from the New York City camps.
Not a bit.
Okay.
The story was... all right, first of all, you get me and Sean, who are hanging out in Fairfield County, Connecticut, and we made two really nice films for kids, and they didn't go anywhere. And one day he called me up, and we tried a whole lot of stuff together. And one day he called me up and said, "Halloween is making a lot of money. Let's rip it off." And that is the origin. And then so I am not now, nor was I ever, an expert at horror films. And so what I did was I went to go see Halloween, and Deborah Hill and John Carpenter were my teachers. I looked at the movie, I saw how they did it, I figured out the format, and one of the main requirements of the kind of movie that Halloween was and that Friday the 13th became is you gotta find some location, just a physical geography that you can put some teenagers in that keeps them from being able to call upon adults to save them. So I sat down, and for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I made a list in my head of all the possible places where adults can't help you. And it seems like such an obvious choice now, but then it took forever to come up with. And I would bring a list to Sean and say, how about this place, how about that place? And then finally I came with summer camp, and we looked at each other, and that was that. So that's where it came from. Then the next step that I learned from Halloween was really simple. You had to have had some prior evil before the movie ever starts. Whether it's what's his name, Michael Myers killing his babysitter. In this case, it was the kids being stabbed by some unknown person, but they were stabbed for a reason, because they were, Mrs. Voorhees had a problem with children who let her child die. So anyway, I was off and running, but in terms of archetypes and whatnot, I just tapped into my own terrors, and those tend to be those kinds of things, that everybody's got an urban legend. I never went to summer camp because I was too scared as a kid, but summer camp seemed like an awfully good place to creep people out.
How fulfilling was it to see something you wrote make it to the big screen?
I cannot tell you exactly how wonderful it was. I mean, but of course, you know, when we did Friday the 13th, my particular expectation, based on the previous two movies we'd done, was we'd be lucky if we got our money back in terms of because we had done these movies that sort of opened in drive-ins, and that's where my aim was. And then suddenly I got a call from Sean that says Paramount has bought it, and they're going to open it in 1,000 theaters, which was unheard of in those days. And then I went and saw it. You know, I had seen it screened at screening places in New York, but the night it opened, I went to a theater in Milford, Connecticut, and we went into the early showing, and you know, it was great to hear people scream, and it was wonderful to see people turn and start to leave the theater before the movie was over. You know, when Alice is in the boat, and they thought the movie was over, and Harry Manfredini's music comes in, and everybody thinks it's over. And so half the theater, the crowd was leaving, and they suddenly heard the scream as Jason came out of the water, and they whipped around and saw this little creature. And so that was incredible. But when I came out of the movie, there was a line about 100 people long, and I said, "Holy shit! You know, what is this?" And then the next week, Variety had us as number one, and that kept on for a bunch of weeks. So, fulfilling, absolutely, especially since I had been writing stuff since 1970, and I had, I'd done some novels and stuff like that, and some romantic novels, and I tried to, the week before Friday the 13th, and I've told this story before, the week before Friday the 13th, I tried to sell my blood to this drug company that was doing studies about antibodies, and for $30, they would give me, I'd give them a pint, but I didn't have enough antibodies, so I didn't get the $30. So if that helps put it in perspective, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually read that story earlier on your website. Everybody can check that over at victormiller.com.
Yeah. I'm constantly reminded of that I have been poor and I have been rich, and I got to tell you, rich is better.
I'd have to agree with that. I love the name Camp Crystal.
That's a real leap of faith.
I love the name Camp Crystal Lake. Who actually came up with that name?
I did. It was there's a Crystal Lake that was on. I used to work for. Oddly enough, I used to work for the Connecticut State Department of Education in the Vocational Technical Division, and I would commute from Guilford, Connecticut to Hartford and up the back roads, and I went past this place called Crystal Lake, and it always stuck in my mind that would be the quintessential place if ever you were to name a lake for a camp.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's like scarier if it's kind of like a happy sounding name and it's not like very obvious to be like Camp Bloody Stump or something?
Right, well, don't forget that my original title, I am the world's worst titler. My original title for this screenplay, when it was just being, when I was doing the first draft, was Long Night at Camp Blood. And I think had Sean not come up with Friday the 13th as the title, I would still be trying to sell my blood. And yes, you have to have happy times for a name of a camp, because would you send your child to something called Camp I'll Split You Open like a ripe peach?
I'd have to say probably no.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It depends on if you like your kid or not.
That's true.
Or if you're a Scarefest person.
We got a caller here on the line. We got Tommy.
Hey, Victor. Thanks for taking my call. I've actually got a two-part question for you. My first part of the question is, with such an extensive writing career, what life lessons have you learned from it? And my second part is what is your preferred style of writing? Like, do you favor horror more, or do you like comedy more, or what's your preferred style?
Okay. Let's see. My life lessons that this is the first time I have said this in public, but I'm ready to let it go. Now that I'll be 69 this year. And the lesson is my generation sucks. I'm here to tell you that as adults, we have let you guys horribly down. We have screwed up the environment. We've screwed up the economy. We've screwed up everything. I'm looking back and saying, what the hell did we do? And we were supposed to be all kinds of social and stuff, and we were active in the anti-war movement. We were active in trying to defeat segregation, and then it seems like we went to sleep. So that's my life lesson for you. I will not try to bum you out any more than that, but my preferred style of writing, oddly enough, is comedy. I have not made $1 at comedy, unfortunately. I don't. It's weird. The thing that you would most like to do is the thing that never happened. I guess, and there must be some reason for that, which I'll find out after I die, maybe. And I've said this in just about every interview that I can remember, that if I had my druthers, I would rather have written Airplane the sequel than Friday the 13th, because that's who I really am. If you hang out with me for 5 minutes over a couple of coffees, you'll find out that I'm totally silly.
And those are, yeah, that you like the comedy. I was going to bring this up. Was that about like when the movie Scream came out? Because they kind of like brought attention to like the roles that you mentioned on your website, and you brought up earlier about horror movies. Like, were you a fan of that movie?
Scream, yeah. I've watched I've watched all the sequels. I've watched all the parodies, even that one with Tom Arnold. It was just grim to watch. What was it called? It wasn't called Thursday the 13th or something, but it was almost as bad. But I love parody, and I would certainly much rather have been hired to write a parody. My suspicion is, though, that people who have to write comedy for a living are really under an incredible amount of pressure. I cannot conceive of having a happy life as, say, one of the staff writers on Seinfeld or one of the other shows, because you just have to keep being absolutely brilliant every week. I am not upset in the least that I wrote Friday the 13th. I don't feel guilty over it. I'm certainly glad that I'm known for something. I mean, before Friday the 13th, I'd go to parties and people would say, "What do you do for a living?" And I'd say, "I'm a writer." And they say, "Would I have seen anything you've written?" And I'd say, "Well, no." And it's much easier now. Now I say I wrote Friday the 13th, and people either go "cool" or "ew."
Tommy, did you have anything else?
Yeah, one quick thing. How do you feel about the new Friday the 13th remake?
I am so glad you asked me that. I will send you a check for $5. I think it's just awful. I read the screenplay, and it's not a remake. It's some sort of strange amalgam. In the publicity, they keep calling it a remake, but when they decided to what scale to use to pay me, they called it a sequel. And so I said, well, I think it's more of a remake. And so I put it into arbitration, and they said, no, it's a sequel. So they're calling it a remake, except when they're trying to pay me, and then they call it a sequel.
Do you get more money if it was a remake?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But basically what they did, this is their definition of a remake. Let's say I had written Moby Dick, and you come along and say, we're going to remake Moby Dick. I say, okay, well, I would imagine there's a whale and there's somebody going after it, right? Well, in this one, they say it's 20 years after the whale and Ahab, and now you got a dolphin and Ahab's son. So it's just, I don't know. It's Jason running around underground 20 years later, but it's the same sort of format. And I wish they'd been honest and said it's a sequel. You know, it's Friday the 13th part, whatever we're up to.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this sort of like Halloween H2O, where it's like a sequel from the original and kind of like ignores all the other sequels?
Yeah, I think you'd have to make up one of those sort of what Steve Carell type words, sequelescent, or Jon Stewart word, sequelescent, because it's. I mean, look, if you want to do a remake of Friday the 13th, then you have to go back to the only thing, and this is why I get upset, because Friday the 13th is about a mother and a son.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about a guy who's a little killing machine with a hockey mask on. And I keep going back to that point that for me the important thing is that this is a mother that I never had. This is a wonderfully homicidal mom who was so protective of her son. I mean, yes, she screwed up when he drowned, but she was busy. And I love that whole thing. I love Betsy Palmer. I think the job she did is absolutely wonderful. There's a moment in that movie when she turns to Alice and she said, he wasn't a very good swimmer, talking about Jason. And that's the heart and soul of the movie, where this incredible denial, but she had this terribly retarded child who wasn't very good. But now she's dedicated her life to making sure that no other children drown. And in order to do that, she has to commit multiple homicides.
Exactly.
I actually had a question about Betsy Palmer. What was your first reactions whenever you heard she was going to play that role?
My first reaction I wasn't thrilled, because the only way I knew her was she was in the movie Mr. Roberts with Henry Fonda and those guys, and she was a nurse in that movie, and she was just clean jeans. She was sort of like Barbie, and those are the roles she tended to play. So I had no clue. And then I met her, and and Sean and I went over. She lived in Westport at the time, I think, and we went over and visited her, and she did that thing that actresses do. I mentioned it when we were at Scarefest together. I accused her of this, and it's true. We went in, and Sean said, "This is Victor Miller," and he wrote the screenplay. She said, "Oh, I love the screenplay. It's so grand guignol. It's wonderful. It's terrifying. It's great." And then, of course, in all of the stuff afterwards, on the DVD, those extra little bits, when in her interview, she said, "I read the script and it was a piece of shit." That's just rule number one. You never trust what actors say before they get the job.
Right.
But at any rate, we've long since made up. I was on the panel with her, and I think she's just fabulous. And I don't think anybody could have done Mrs. Voorhees as well as she did. Glenn Close, it would have, I don't know what she would have done to it.
Just a cheap plug for us over on Withoutyourhead.com. You can listen to our Betsy Palmer interview from a few years ago. Good stuff.
Fabulous. She is the best, and she goes on and on. She will not hold anything back. She will tell huge audiences about her dating life in Hollywood with all the stars when she was a starlet.
Right. Thanks for calling in, Tommy.
Thanks for taking my call, Victor.
Thank you, my friend. Send me emails if you want. I'm at victormiller.com.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Earlier you brought up Henry Manfredini, who we'll be having on the show sometime in the future. What did you think, like, when the first time you heard the little jingle?
I just was knocked out. I mean, I didn't know Harry Manfredini from Adam, and of course, there I heard these incredible sounds, and then later on when he said, where he got it, it was from the voice that's in the ground of that. He said it flattered the hell out of me. He said, I got it out of your script, because that's where Betsy Palmer is saying, "Kill her, Mommy, kill her," in supposedly Jason's voice. And so he said, he spoke those lines into a tripler or whatever it's called. I've forgotten what it was. And that's the sound that everybody goes, and everybody remembers. So, again, I don't think Friday the 13th would have been the success it was without Tom Savini, Harry Manfredini, all those Eni guys, and then Cunningham and Miller. I think it was a really wonderfully put together piece.
Yeah.
For relatively no money.
Yeah. There's some great death scenes in Friday the 13th. Did you expect them to be so gruesome while you were writing them?
I had no idea. I mean, I was sitting there with my IBM Selectric typewriter, typing away, saying, hunting arrow comes up. I had all these impossible death scenes that Betsy Palmer somehow, or whoever Mrs. Voorhees was going to be, was going to have enough body strength, upper arm body strength, to shove a hunting arrow up through springs, a mattress, a spinal cord, and up out of Kevin Bacon's throat. But I was just writing this stuff, and it's really easy when you do it in words, when you're seeing it in black typeface on top of white page. But then I was over at Sean's because Tom Savini was going to come and discuss the work he was going to do, and so we sat at Sean's swimming pool, and Savini has gone through my script, and he's got everything noted, and I'm looking at it. I said, "My God, I had never been produced this incredibly." And so he would do things like saying, on page 40 you got a axe in the face now, and he turned to Sean. He said, "Do you want a real axe in a fake face, or you want a fake axe in a real face?" I'm just looking like a kid, back and forth at a tennis match. That this is just crap I had written on a typewriter, and suddenly this man was going to build faces and axes and glue things to people and have blood bags coming out of stuff. And I said, "Wow, this is all going to happen."
What would you say is like the biggest difference between like your script and the finished like film?
Well, the only piece that I didn't write, and that's the motorcycle sequence, that I've made no secret about that. That was put in at the request of the guy who put up the money, and to me it worked against the essential nature, which I mentioned earlier in talking, saying that the whole point of the movie is to keep adults away from the kids who were going to be killed one by one. And I didn't want to give the impression that there were motorcycle police or regular police that could come and save them. In the same way that in Halloween, the first Halloween, when Jamie Lee Curtis is going to try to get help, she knocks on the doors of all these adults and says, "Help me, help me, help me." And the adults behind the doors, and you never even see their faces, they say, "Oh, it's just kids. Pay no attention, Marty," or whatever. And that's what I was trying to do. So that was the only real disappointment. Obviously, they had to make cuts all over the place because they were working against the leaves were turning brown instead of green because they were shooting in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to make cuts for time and money. But as I say, the only piece that I'm not pleased with is that, though I know that the actor who played the motorcycle guy has made a career out of appearing at Scary Fest, Sphere Fest, and all that kind of stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't hold it against anybody. I just wish it weren't there.
Yeah. Was it always intentional to get rid of Ned before the real horror started? Always kind of felt Ned was kind of more of the comedy character.
Yeah. In retrospect, I would rather do a better job with Ned.
Mm-hmm.
He was the lamest. But then he also gave me the opportunity to have that shocking thing where, because nobody was really even seriously looking for him, if I remember correctly, and so I got more bang for the buck by having Kevin Bacon doing the deed in the bed, and then you pan up because I got to have these people making love with a corpse. Just right above them, which I just thought was creepy as hell. Certainly would have bummed me out.
It is a pretty sick thought if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, I can go there.
I think on the DVD they mentioned the end when Jason. I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody, but if you haven't seen the movie by now, I don't know why you'd be listening to the show.
28 years later. Okay. Jason comes out of the water.
I'm sorry, everybody.
There. Spoiler alert.
on the DVD, they, some people say at the time they didn't know if that's supposed to be really happening or if it's a dream or what. When you were writing it, what went through your head?
It's totally a dream sequence. It is. The nice way of saying it about me is that it's an homage to Carrie. The bad way is to say that Sean said we need a chair jumper for the end, and I said, you mean like Carrie? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, so he comes out of the water. It, go back and look at the movie Carrie, and that wonderful sequence at the very end. It's almost shot for shot. I've forgotten who's walking past the grave, but they're walking past the grave, and the hand comes out of the dirt and grabs the ankle, and then boom, you cut to a hospital bed, and you realize that was a dream. So, yeah, for me, that was just a nail in the coffin, a wonderful way to scare the Jesus out of people, and it really did work, because as I said, I was there at the opening in Connecticut, and saw these, half the group had their coats over their shoulders and were headed out, and the other half was waiting. I don't know whether to see the credits or what, but so it worked really well.
Yeah,
as it had in Carrie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, like, if you didn't write the sequel, but if you would have, like, how would you? What would your idea have been?
Well, that's a question I get a lot. I'm going to have to switch over because it sounds like my headset battery is going, but I will try not to disappear.
All right.
Anything I would have done would have tried to involve Mrs. Voorhees a lot more, because I think if anybody were to be brought back to life, I mean, if they brought Jason back, Jason was at least 20 years dead in my Friday the 13th. So I could certainly stick her head back on, I guess, but I would certainly be going for something like that, rather than I just thought it was kind of simplistic to have this little killing machine running around by the name of Jason, and as I understand it, because I have not seen any of the sequels, and I understand it, he's just there trying to avenge the death of his mother for the next 20 years.
Right.
Which I think would get fairly old, but hey, look, this is not art. This is about money, and money comes in here, and movies come out here.
Yeah. And eventually, he does get shot off in outer space, which I'm sure was something that went through your mind.
Yeah. I mean, what can I tell you? I think sequels are wonderful. I get checks when they make one, and I think it's really nice. But in a perfect world, we would all be so imaginative we could start new stuff.
Right.
Yeah. What was your feelings on having a female character be the sole survivor in the end of the film?
I felt very Victorian about the whole thing. I love horror movies, and horror movies to me always involve women in white nightgowns.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that those are the best ways. I happen to be a huge fan of women, even though I've killed a bunch of them. But,
not literally.
Yeah, no, not literally.
Right.
But I just somehow think there's something marvelously Victorian about having this one woman be the only survivor in this whole thing. That men, for all of their knowledge about weapons and hunting and gathering and all that kind of stuff, it's the woman who survives. And I guess that's an homage to my mother. She could have been the next Jason or the next Mrs. Voorhees. Who knows?
Exactly.
If we'd looked deep enough and not gone right for Jason coming back up out of the water.
Mm-hmm. John?
Oh, did you ever think that Jason Voorhees would become a cult character like he's become?
Nope. Absolutely not. I had no, and in fact, the treatment of Jason's physical state, I never had Jason as anything other than slightly retarded in my mind, and you only saw him in distance and in fuzzy stuff until the end when he came up, and it was Savini and Sean who sat down and said, let's go for broke here. And I had no idea what they were going to do with his face until I saw it. And I was not upset. I just thought, wow, look what they did. So obviously, if you have somebody that horrible looking, you got to cover him with something.
Mm-hmm. Did they consult you at all on any of the sequels, or you just no?
Never. No. That's the story of Hollywood. There's a wonderful quote from Eleanor Perry in a book called Blue Pages that she wrote. It's her memoir about being in Hollywood, and she starts off the book with a quote that she'd overheard, I guess, in the Polo Lounge, and the quote is, "In Hollywood, the writer is the woman." And if you're a woman, you understand that quote really well, and if you're a writer, you understand it even better. It means you're going to get screwed.
No.
Yeah.
No, I read on your website, you wrote a screenplay for movie Asylum that was never released. And
Right. Yep.
What's it like to, on the flip side, we said, seeing Friday the 13th for the first time, was big for you. What's it like to spend a lot of time writing something that, nothing ever comes of?
I mean, you get over it. I mean, I was upset because Asylum was bought right after Friday the 13th. I went out to Hollywood, and for about 19 seconds, I think I'm short on my 20 minutes of fame. For 19 seconds, I was hot, and Columbia Pictures bought this screenplay that I hadn't even written yet. And so I was all excited until I realized that studios don't really make horror films. Studios buy horror films made by independents. Because in order to make, if Friday the 13th had been made by Columbia Pictures, it would have been a several $million movie. Instead, Sean made it for $600,000 or something like that. And so studios buy films, because they love what's the quote? Studios love to make deals; they don't like to make movies. And so they had fun, and they bought my movie, and it was never made. And that's. It's I made a hell of a lot of money from Asylum, and I didn't have to give it back.
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually my career in soap opera, which followed all of that. After I realized that Hollywood was not going to be this incredible open bank where I could just go there and take money out, I realized I had to do something. So. When somebody said, "Would you like to write soap opera?" I said, "I don't know," and I started writing, and I enjoyed the hell out of it for the next 25 years. It was really nice. It was a regular salary, and the networks treated me really well, and I had a great time.
Who's your favorite character to write for on Another World? Because I hate to admit this, but that's actually one that I watched.
Another World, my God, you really now you're testing the poor old man's memory. It wasn't the woman with the long face. What was her name? God, the star.
I know what you mean, but
yeah,
it's been a while since I watched it. There was one that my mother used to watch, so I would actually catch it sometimes when I come home from school.
I used to listen to Ma Perkins on the radio in 1947 too. So we go back. Another World was not my favorite show. When I was hired there, it was because I'd been fired at all my children, and I think that was after. Yeah, I think it was after the strike. I forget. Yeah, it was after the strike, and I had been very vocal in the strike, and so ABC punished me and threw me out. But so I was at Another World, and I knew that show was going to die. It was already dying, and so it was like working on the Titanic and saying, "Well, we're going to paint the furniture today. It's really wonderful. Don't worry about it." And it was just, it was awful. And Procter & Gamble was awful. I mean, Procter & Gamble didn't know how to get an audience to come back, and so it was just, it was like we were all writing at a wake.
I probably shouldn't admit it here on the show that was the one I used to watch.
But we all have our past, you know.
Were you saying something, John?
Oh, I just want to know if Paramount came to you and asked you to participate in a commentary track for Friday the 13th, would you do it?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, they did. Paramount did, but they scheduled it. I was in Nepal, when they were doing all of the taping. I mean, they farm those things out. They contract them out to these guys who do this for a living, and they said, okay, we're going to be doing this during the week of blah, blah, to blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to be in Nepal. And they said, okay. But when Warner Brothers did the foreign release one, I was around, so they flew me down and they interviewed me for that one. And I've also been interviewed for that one about his name was Jason. I guess that's a documentary that is coming out. And so I was interviewed for that one. So Paramount would have to do it again, but the word on the street is that Paramount is really cheap, and so they weren't going to spend the extra dollars to say, oh well, if Victor can't be here from Nepal, we'll get him the next week.
Mm-hmm. I think they're putting out a bunch of the movies again, because I saw, I think it was on MySpace, that Joe Lynch and Adam Green, they're doing the commentary for, I think it's part 4.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean.
Yeah, and neither one had anything to do with the movie, but they do the commentary.
Oh, great! Well,
there were 9, I think, when it came out.
My wife and I worked for a local charity here called Alameda Family Services League, and Alameda Family Services does all the great stuff for people, for counseling and spousal abuse and all those neat things. And so I get auctioned every year. I will. If anybody bids on me, I will come to your house with my own copy of Friday the 13th, and I will do a live voiceover.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
For you and your friends, and you can be drunk or stoned. It doesn't bother me, so long as Alameda Family Services gets the money.
Uh-huh.
So, but I think it'd be a little tricky with you guys, because these happen to be in the 510 area code, and you'd have to find me out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay, well, where in Massachusetts?
Sandwich. It's on Cape Cod.
Sandwich. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. God. Well, my wife was from Brewster, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah. Anyway, no. So yes, anybody who wants to give money to Alameda Family Services, I can come to your house and stun your friends.
Excellent. We can do like a one-man play. We'll do the whole movie.
Yeah, no, it's fun because everybody has different questions, and we can put it on pause and say, "What about Kevin Bacon?" Well, I can tell you that Kevin Bacon in his resume rarely mentions Friday the 13th.
I actually tried to get him on the show to talk about Friday the 13th.
I bet you failed.
Yeah, they actually replied to me and stuff until I told them what movie it was for. Then it was like, oh, he's busy. And that was the end of it.
Yeah, he's very busy. Yeah. Look, we're all punks at some point, right?
Exactly.
I think it's important to remember your punkitude.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think I get humbled all the time. I got a wife, I got 2 grown children, I got 2 daughters-in-law, and I got a grandson, and they know that I'm the guy that takes the garbage out and sometimes has to be swatted. So it's good to be humble.
Yeah. Did you keep any memorabilia from the movie?
I have a big poster. Otherwise, I have got nothing. I mean, the only time I went to any of the filming, I went out to Blairstown, New Jersey, where they were shooting it, and I happened to be there, fortunately, on the day that Tom Savini put the arrow through Kevin Bacon's neck, or chest, or whatever, and so I was there for that, but I neglected to say, Tom, can I have the arrow? So, I don't have any.
That'd be a nice keepsake, but a poster with your name on it, that's the ultimate right there.
It is. I mean, I can always go back to that. And I had the most fun at, what was it, the Scare Fest in Lexington, Kentucky, that was just absolutely fun. And people kept saying, why haven't you been to these before? And I said, well, no one's ever invited me. So if there's anybody out there who gets people to come to these things, please remember me. I had great fun, and I was really, I felt creeped out about the idea of charging people $20 for an autograph. So I put a sign up that said all proceeds go to Alameda Family Services. I made something like $1,350.
Oh, that's cool.
For the Alameda Family Services just signing my stupid name.
And we know a few places, that they try to help us get guests, and we help promote them. So, if we hear anything, you want me to pass on the information?
Oh, please do. Yeah, I had great fun because I was stuck between Manfredini, and across the aisle was Savini, and evidently, and what's his name? God, he's going to kill me. Ari Lehman. And these guys have been to all of these things, and they bring huge rubber bands that they then shoot across the aisle at each other when there are people coming by. And so that they've got all of these little wars that they do. And Savini it was great to see him again, and Manfredini couldn't be funnier or nicer, and I love seeing him. So I just had a great time, and the fans couldn't have been nicer. I now have a whole bunch of people on Facebook who I met in Lexington, and they couldn't be nicer, and we chat all the time. So.
Do you want to give out your Facebook address?
Absolutely. My Facebook name is
right.
Victor Brooke with an E Miller.
Okay, this should be easy to find.
All you have to do is say you want to be a friend, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. We just got on the Facebook. We were on the MySpace. Are you on the MySpace?
Yeah, no, I never did. I am so new to Facebook. I still love it. I'm having a lot of fun on that.
Yeah, I kind of like it better than MySpace.
Well, see, you would know because I don't have any basis or comparison. But and my favorite comic is Patton Oswalt, and he's on Facebook. And
yeah,
I clicked him to be a friend, and I actually know him. And it came back that he had too many friends. So I wrote him. I said, "Jesus, you got over 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I can't get in." And he said, "I think they're dropping that stupid rule." So now I'm in, because at what's his name, Peter Brackey's book, Crystal Lake Memories or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When they had the release party in L.A., I went down for that, and so we had a midnight screening or whatever it was of Friday the 13th, and I looked out in the audience during the Q&A, and there was Brian Posehn and Patton Oswalt sitting there. And I stared at him, and afterwards I went up to them and I said, "You guys, I love you guys." And they said, "Well, we love you." And so I got to know them because they are, they're Friday the 13th fans and comic book fans. And so every time Patton comes to do a show in San Francisco, we go and hoot and holler. So.
Yeah. They both rule. Actually, Brian Posehn, I think the first time I really noticed him or knew he was on Mr. Show, which is like one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh, right. And what's the one? God, I can't remember where when Oswald is that strange. Oh, it's Reno 911.
Yeah.
Where Patton shows up as that strange geek. God. Anyway, we're off the subject.
Right. It's good times. When you were at that convention, did anybody ask you to sign anything unusual?
No, and I was waiting for it too.
Right.
I could have given that one for free. I'm 68. I'm not dead. But but there were some really very hot people running around loose. There were the Strychnine sisters. They make great jewelry, and they're hot.
You said that you still own Asylum. You still have the screenplay. Is there any chance it'll get
screenplay somewhere? And somewhere in a file my wife put away somewhere. If it ever gets made or somebody ever wants to make it, it would have to be they'd have to pay Columbia Pictures what they paid me because it's their property in that sense. But
right,
it's there, and I have no particular thoughts about it one way or the other. It was one of those things where when I was hot, I went into Columbia Pictures and they put me right into the office of the president or whoever it was. At that particular point, it was a revolving door, and they had 3 different secretaries asking me what kind of designer water I wanted. And I said, "My God, this is amazing." And they said, "Okay, Vic, you got any ideas?" And I said, "Yeah, I was thinking of doing this horror movie in an old part of a hospital that I know in New Haven." And they said, "Great, get his agent on the phone." So on that one sentence, I got $100,000. I had nothing. Just a horror film in a hospital. So they make the deal. I go home. I'm sitting in Connecticut, wondering what the hell's going to be in this movie. And they called up and they said, we've just done some research and we find that movies that are made in hospitals don't make any money. And I said, wait, does this mean I have to give the money back? And they said, no. But could you put this in a different venue? And I said, yeah, what? Like what? And they said, well, how about a women's college? And I said, fine. And since I had nothing anyway, so I said, I'll put it in a women's college. And that's when I knew that I had passed over the line and become a whore. So, if, as you look back in your life, if you want to know when you really sold out totally, that would be it.
Would it have kept the name Asylum? I mean,
Yeah.
It probably would have made sense after a while.
Oh, yeah, no, because I had a way of doing that. I had a way of saying that the college was had once, the old...
Been an asylum, exactly.
Asylum, yeah. And it had gone away in great disgrace with all these horrible experiments that they had done. Creepy.
You had that all worked out ahead of us.
Well, I can shake, rattle, and roll. Where do you need it? How big do you want it?
Besides Friday the 13th, of course, what are like some of your favorite horror movies?
My favorite horror movies? Psycho,
Mm-hmm.
and the original Diabolique, French one, and The Haunting, the original.
Yeah.
I'm very big on originals, you can tell. It seems like, I don't know why people... Oh, and the Bela Lugosi Dracula. That's kind of it, because I'm, and Halloween, which I owe everything to. But I don't go out of my way to see horror movies. I mean, I play Segway Polo with a bunch of people down in Silicon Valley, and they're more you guys' age, and they'll say things like, have you seen Saw? And I'll say, no, I haven't seen Saw. I say, well, I'll rent it. So I've seen Saw and those, and I've looked at the ones that they said I had to look at, but I wouldn't have done it without them suggesting it.
Right. And they didn't make your favorite list.
No. but I love the mask, or the whatever that the cheeks with the red circles on it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
Are you finished with me yet? Have we got
Oh,
phone callers?
we were just gonna wrap it up actually, because John and I, we passed notes throughout the show, and we were like,
Yeah.
I think we should wrap it up. He's getting tired of us.
And we only got. I'm not getting tired of you, but we had Tommy.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in the chat room, but I think they're too afraid to call in and talk to you.
And talk to the eminence. Well, tell them to link up, and if you want me to link to you, send me
Definitely.
whatever you need to send me, and then I give it to my son that actually knows how to do that stuff.
Yeah,
I can link you on VictorMiller.com.
excellent. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on tonight. It was good times.
Thank you guys, Neil, John, and Troy. So hook me up with some of these horror things. They're fun, and I enjoy seeing Manfredini and Savini again. And
Yeah.
plus, I got to see all these other guys who I never, names that I didn't know, Sid Haig and Bill Moseley and those guys. That's fun.
Sid Haig's actually our first guest we ever had in the show.
Wow.
Yeah. I just like plugging our own show here on the show.
Ron
I
Milton
know.
was supposed to be there, but he wasn't. He's the cop. But I
Oh, yeah?
that now thing. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
There, but he didn't show up. And David Naughton was next to me. He was cool.
There's a big one here, and it's every year, every October. It's the Rock and Shock. So maybe I'll send him some information. Maybe they'd be interested.
Yeah, because I'm
Take a trip to Boston.
well. Look, I spent 5 years at Milton Academy, probably the worst 5 years of my life. Well, no, I've had worse, but they were pretty awful. So I know Milton and Boston and Cambridge and Dorchester. I can hang out with you guys.
Just so you know, everybody in the chat room, they're saying Mick Victor Mill is a great guest, one of the best. So,
Well, you'll get the straight whatever. Well, I will not lie to you. So send me emails if you have personal questions that you dared not speak.
exactly. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Neil, John, and Troy, and the people in the chat room. My pleasure.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is VC Dupree, Julius from Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. And you're listening to the hottest horror radio joint this side of Crystal Lake, Without Your Head Horror Radio. Oh, shit.